Okay, part 2 about how whale enthusiasts are some of the worst people on the internet. I'm not talking about whale scientists. I'm not talking about cetacean researchers. I'm talking about whale enthusiasts. In part 1, I talked about some of the discourse around the humpback whale that was euthanized on the Oregon coast this past week, and how both the Oregon State University Veterinary School and the Siletz Confederated Tribes conducted a necropsy on that whale, took samples and artifacts for their individual uses, so that the death of that whale would not be in vain, so that something good could come of it. And yet, Cetacean Stan Twitter decided to go this way with it. Pause to read this ignorant racist screed. I'm not going to read it out loud again. You can go watch part 1 if you want to watch me lose my shit over it. But in that video, I mentioned that this sentiment is not uncommon. I see this all the time. There's the living in a weird alternate reality where they're all glazing for SeaWorld, but then there's also from a number of these whale nonprofits, this just completely overtly, horrifically racist shit that they post all over Twitter. It's so bad, it feels almost like their love of whales is really just an excuse for them to get to be anti-Indigenous, white supremacist all over social media. These are essentially a bunch of white women on the internet who put their own warm fuzzies about whales above all. They claim it's about whale conservation, but we're going to get into the data on that in just a minute. Because if they really cared about saving whales, if they really cared about whale conservation, they would not be spending all of their energy going after Indigenous people and their right to hunt whales or their right to harvest whales that have been euthanized. Now, I don't have time to get into all of the instances of this behavior. If you'd like me to do more videos on this subject, I'm more than happy to, because I have gone all the way down the rabbit hole. But for this video, let's stick to the main example, which is also a local example. It's a controversy that comes out of Depot Bay, Oregon, and has to do with the restoration of the rights of the Makah people to hunt gray whales. The Makah tribe have been hunting whales in the Pacific Northwest for at least 1,500 years. In 1855, they signed a treaty with the United States government that secured their rights to take fish, whales, and seals at the usual and accustomed grounds and stations, but also ceded much of their tribal land on the Olympic Peninsula to the United States government. Now, the Makah tribe traditionally hunted North Pacific gray whales, and on their own in the 1920s, the tribe put an end to their whaling practices because that population was threatened. They were watching a steep decline that was not caused by native people hunting whales. It was caused by fishing, shipping, and other factors from white people, and I'll get into that in a little bit. By 1970, the situation for the gray whale had become so dire that they were listed as endangered under the U.S. Endangered Species Conservation Act, which is the precursor to the Endangered Species Act that we have now. But by 1994, the North Pacific gray whales were removed from the federal list of endangered wildlife after it was determined that the population had, quote, recovered to near its estimated original population size and is neither in danger of extinction throughout all of or a significant portion of its range, nor is it likely to again become endangered within the foreseeable future. Less than a year later, in 1995, the Makah tribe notified the U.S. government that it would be seeking approval from the International Whaling Commission to restore its annual whale quota. They said they intended to resume their rights as under the 1855 treaty to harvest gray whales for ceremonial and subsistence purposes. NOAA and the Fisheries Department did a number of analyses and said that, yes, it would be reasonable for the Makah to be able to have the restoration of their whaling rights. The Chukotkin people of Russia also applied to have their whaling rights restored, and the International Whaling Commission gave them the right to hunt 600 whales over a 5-year period and extended the right to the Makah people to hunt 20 whales over a 5-year period, ending in 2002. In 1999, the Makah carried out a hunt and successfully harvested 1 whale. This kicked off a long, protracted legal battle where animal rights folks sued not only the federal government, hence the name of the case, Metcalf v. Daley, because William Daley was the Secretary of Commerce at the time, but also the National Marine Fisheries Service and the Makah tribe, in an attempt to bar the Makah people from harvesting gray whales. By the way, during the time that all of this court case was playing out in the United States, the International Whaling Commission was continuing to extend the rights to the Makah people to harvest 20 whales every 5 years. While this legal battle was playing out in October 2007, 5 Makah tribe members were involved in the killing of a gray whale, and they were indicted in federal court for unauthorized whaling, unauthorized take of a marine mammal, and conspiracy to engage in unlawful whaling. They were also charged in Makah tribal court as well. So in all of these decades, exactly 2 whales had been taken. Hang on, it's getting dark. Let me turn my light on. So keep in mind, the tribe has applied for a waiver. They are waiting for a restoration of their rights that were extended to them under this 1855 treaty. They ceded most of their traditional lands. The federal government made a promise, and then, like so many treaties that we made with Indigenous people, the federal government is failing to uphold their side of the bargain. And the Makah people are going through this process of trying to get their rights restored. Fast forward to 2019 as this process is still unfolding. And this is where we get the involvement of Depot Bay, Oregon. In particular, one Carrie Newell, who owns Whale Research Eco Excursions LLC, a whale watching business out of Depot Bay. She calls herself a whale researcher, and I was able to find that she does have a master's degree. Newell has been outspoken against the restoration of the rights of the Makah people to hunt gray whales. She claims it's in the name of whale conservation. We'll get into that in a second. But in 2019, she was involved in a court case opposing the restoration of the Makah's whaling rights. I'm going to quote here a piece from the Sierra Club about this case. Scientists and attorneys from groups like Sea Shepherd and the Animal Welfare Institute view whaling as inhumane and dangerous to the health of a fragile population. Keep in mind, the population was not deemed to be fragile, it was deemed fully recovered. And they are allowed to take exactly 4 whales per year and have up until this point taken a total of 2. So Sea Shepherd brought Newell in as an expert witness in 2019. She claimed that the federal government granting the Makah people their whaling exception, allowing them to harvest in their traditional way, failed to comply with the Marine Mammal Protection Act of 1972. Around that time, Carrie also put up a petition on change.org with extremely loaded language, making claims that are not backed up by the research, insisting that the Makah people not have the right restored to them to harvest 4 whales a year. Newell is known to use her whale watching tours as a chance to advocate for her position as a white woman that Indigenous people not be allowed to harvest whales. But in June 2024, NOAA Fisheries announced its affirmative decision to grant the Makah tribe's request for a waiver. And in March of 2025, the Makah tribe submitted an application to hunt gray whales again. It is worth noting that the folks trying to block Native people from harvesting whales in their traditional methods are overwhelmingly white, including one of the original plaintiffs was from an animal rights group in Australia, and that they see whales as being above Indigenous people. They claim that this is about protecting whales, it's about whale conservation, and yet they specifically target all of their energy and resources, multiple court cases, on Native people, taking up to 4 whales a year. Again, so far only having taken 2. They don't focus any of their resources or advocacy on the real threats to gray whale populations. In whale conservation and fisheries, there's this term, take reduction. This is research and actions focused on reducing the number of whales that are taken every year, lost every year. NOAA and real whale scientists tell us that the risks to gray whales are entanglement in fishing gear, strikes from vessels, stress from harassment from whale watchers. Carrie Newell, don't you own a whale watching business? Pollution, underwater noise, and algal blooms. None of these are the Makah people taking up to 4 whales per year. And yet we see white whale conservation activists repeatedly, endlessly for decades targeting the Makah people. Just like we see whale activists, cetacean stands online, targeting Indigenous people and their right to harvest whales. The white supremacy here is overt. It's about targeting Indigenous people, depriving them of their traditional practices and culture. Because if it was really about whale conservation, they would spend their money and energy and resources funding and supporting take reduction and targeting the ways that whales are actually being harmed. But they're not. They're not, because it was never about whale conservation for them. Because you know who have been some of the fiercest advocates for whale conservation? The Makah people, who, as the tribe has argued, have a deep ancestral connection to the gray whale.